to bring in Charlie Gasparino and Charles Payne, our Fox Business contributors here. Charles Payne, you know, Brendan Boyle from Pennsylvania has a good point in that he's a little concerned about losing control, but some of the other Democrats are more worried that these kinds of trade bills tend to see some job losses come with them. Okay, right. It's almost like a fact of life here. Do you get a sense that maybe the TAA should have lived just to at least smooth the rough edges of what will eventually be a trade bill where we do see some job losses?
Well, the TAA was interesting because it actually let some benefits expire for workers who typically the Democrats would be for. A big job program that supposedly will give people money because their jobs are displaced by trade. Now, having said that, the fact that they let that die and they had to do these separately was pretty interesting. But for me, my biggest worry was the opaqueness of it. The congressman talked about going into a bunker. A few people got to read it in something of a safe room, and that's the scary part. I'm for trade, but I'm for fair trade, and that's what I think Donald Trump has hit a nerve with, because think about this year. I think 5 auto plants have been announced in Mexico, including that $2.5 billion one that Donald Trump talks about, and one in America.
So are you hearing this, Representative Boyle? Charles Payne actually is agreeing with you that he feels that it hasn't been fair that you guys are in a bunker, you're not allowed to read, or you haven't been given that opportunity.
Yeah, well, and that's frankly the way I feel. And I also think that the added secrecy has only, frankly, increased the amount of concern that there is nationwide, and it plays into the perception that most ordinary people have that they're disaffected with their government and just not connected to it. So I think the way this has been handled has inadvertently helped add to that.
Charlie Gasparino, you know, this is a touchy situation, but it is rare to see Democrats battling Democrats on an issue like this and Republicans siding with the president.
I mean, what makes this fascinating to me is not the market impact, because it has no market impact, obviously. I think the economic impact is going to be sort of muted. What kind of gets me on this story is that, you know, in the old days, the Democrats used to be a party of free trade, believe it or not, and not so old days, like 1996, 97, 98. Now it's not the party of free trade anymore. And I don't consider this bill free trade to begin with, because it's so watered down, so many amendments, so much stuff is involved here. But, you know, if you look at where the Democratic Party is going, free trade, which was one of the planks of the New Democrats from Bill Clinton, is now done.
Congressman Bacchus, is Charlie right that the economic impact of this particular bill would be muted? I get the sense that the big push is that it will give access of our goods that are made here to the world, to at least 11 other nations, many of them in Asia.
This particular bill is simply a bill that provides negotiating authority to the president.
Right, but the final bill.
We have yet to see what will be negotiated. One thing that might be negotiated would be that a Trans-Pacific partnership that could cover about 40% of the global economy. We don't know what will be in the final agreement. Following that, we would, as the president has proposed, have a transatlantic trade and investment partnership between the United States and Europe that would cover literally trillions of dollars of commerce worldwide.
Congressman Bacchus, what happened to the New Democrats? Where are they on fundamental economic issues? They're done. I mean, they're not part. It's like, you know, we're talking about Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. You know, this is what the other gentleman's basically channeling Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. That's what they say. I mean, I find it fascinating that the center left is no longer part of the Democratic coalition anymore. It's the left and the left.
Well, if the center isn't part of the Democratic Party, then the Democratic Party is not going to be a majority party, and it's not going to be true to Democratic principles. There are a lot of things on which the Congressman and I would agree in terms of investments in education, infrastructure, and more, but they won't succeed if we close our doors to legitimate competition in the world economy. 95% of our potential customers are outside the United States.
Congressman Boyle, before we finish, would you call yourself a centrist Democrat?
Yeah, no, I was laughing or kind of ironic the last comments because
we laugh at Charlie all the time.
No, and I'm a fan actually of Mr. Gasparino's and have watched him for many years. And he might find it ironic that at this time last year I was running for a seat in which I was being attacked as not liberal enough. So I will hope to play the tape of Mr. Gasparino saying I'm like Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. I think some people will appreciate that.
They play me.
But I will say, let's be careful not to allow one issue to suddenly be extrapolated to cover the whole political spectrum.
All right. This is a great conversation. We'll have you back. Congressman Brendan Boyle of Pennsylvania, former Congressman Jim Bacchus of Florida. Good to have all of you.